Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the news briefing for this Wednesday. Our lakes and dams in southern Monterey County are in need of some work to meet state and federal requirements for flood protection and sustainable water supply requirements. These infrastructure projects are a county priority, and they will be discussed at our upcoming legislative workshop that is this Friday between 10 and 12. It will be, you can join in person or you can watch this workshop via Zoom. It will be with our elected officials, and we will be discussing how to secure some additional funding for this work. To tell us more about the projects and their status right now, we're very pleased to have Shaunna Murray. She is the Deputy General Manager of the Monterey County Water Resources Agency. Thanks very much, Shaunna, for joining us to talk about these projects.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for having me here today. I'm really pleased to be able to talk about the progress we have made towards safety of dam projects for both reservoirs that the agency owns and operates. These reservoirs are in the Salinas River Valley watershed. We all understand the critical import of having sustainable water supply as well as flood response in this valley. We have had a focus really on our outlet structures, and those are used to release the stored water behind those two reservoirs. In May of 2023, our agency board approved a funding agreement with the California Department of Water Resources for over $6.1 million. And that was for these critical outlet structures. That's just a piece of the puzzle. We have about $192 million worth of projects that need funding to meet these regulatory requirements. We did have a second funding agreement through Governor Newsom, signed Senate Bill 104 in September of 23. And that authorized an additional $17 million for the safety improvements at both dams. This will improve both the valves and the spillways and the plunge pools. And again, it's a piece of the bigger puzzle. We continue to do design and permitting work based on this new funding to replace the San Antonio spillway. This is a California Division of Safety of Dams mandate back in 2022. In October of this year, we've submitted additional funding requests through the federal financial assistance at the U.S. Department of Energy for additional $5 million to help support these efforts. But the next priority the agency has is to secure an additional $8.6 million to modernize the San Antonio Dam low-level outlet work. So again, this is to release water out of the reservoir safely for the beneficial uses throughout the valley. The agency is working with a statewide coalition to support the funding, as well as appropriation packages for all four of the water, flood, and climate resilience bonds currently under consideration by the legislature, and we continue to seek other federal funding opportunities. This has been a group effort, and we sincerely wish to express our appreciation for the hard work and support of our local elected officials, Congresswoman Lofgren, Congressman Panetta, Senator Laird, Speaker Rivas, Senator Caballero, Assemblymember Addis, and our fine Monterey County supervisors that have supported this process, along with our many Salinas Valley stakeholders. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Shaunna. If people have questions for Shaunna about these projects, you're welcome to put them in chat, or you can raise your hand. I want to kind of prime the pump and get things going. These projects, they're significant projects. Are these long-term projects? What time frame are we looking at to possibly get them done? Should we be able to, get the funding we need?
Yeah, so if we can get this additional $8.6 million, which is our current focus, in addition to the other funding we have, we hope that in the next 3 to 5 years, this suite of projects is completed. So we've really focused on the outlet works as far as the spillway and the plunge pool and the valve systems. And so these are projects that we can complete rather swiftly. We have an additional set of projects that could take another 5 to 10 years on top of that. But this immediate set of projects that we're hoping to fund, again, would be more in that 5+ year range.
When people hear about modernization and infrastructure work at lakes and dams, they wonder about safety. And I was hoping you might talk about how, why we're taking on this project now versus maybe waiting, longer.
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we want to operate dams and reservoirs, operational flexibility is really key to that. So we have, differing climate conditions. Sometimes we're in these droughts, which we just, kind of got out of, and we went directly into a flood control situation in 2023. And so what's key to that is having different types of operational flexibility through being able to release water, whether it's a small amount of water for environmental and fisheries flows, or whether it's a large flood control release. Those facilities are going to look different. When we built these dams in the early, 1950s and 1960s, we had different thoughts about how we might be releasing water. And now we have an additional 70 years of data saying, actually, sometimes the flows come in slowly and sometimes they come in fast, and you need to have that flexibility to safely operate the dam so that you don't encounter unwanted, levels in the reservoir or erosion downstream. So we found some of our facilities need upgrading to make sure that we are safely operating and not causing any impacts. And that's what our main focus is, as far as having a good set of valves that can operate at different levels, and to keep those levels in the reservoir at a manageable rate.
I think people look at the lakes for recreation oftentimes more than for flood control. And I recall during the disasters that were happening a year ago, there were still some reservoir releases during that time. I'm wondering if you could talk about the regulations that you work under to manage the water in the reservoir.
Yeah, these reservoirs are multi-benefit reservoirs. And so we look at them as flood control, as water conservation. For fisheries enhancements, we have, listed species, endangered species in the system. And so that's really critical that we can let water out to keep the fisheries and the habitat viable. We also, with our management of the reservoirs, do provide recreational use, and the Parks Department is really critical to that as far as having facilities lakeside. And so these are multi-benefit reservoirs. There are many factors into why we store water or release water, and we want to make sure we're able to cover all those benefits in a very feasible and helpful way.
Are there any questions for Shaunna about the reservoirs or about the projects that will be discussed this Friday? I am not seeing any more questions. So for people who want to know more about the status, more about why these works are a priority, they can join our legislative program workshop, which is this Friday at noon, from 10 to noon. It will be in our Board of Supervisors chambers. It will also be online on Zoom, where people can monitor it as well and find out more about what Shaunna has explained to us. Shaunna, thanks very much for taking the time to talk about these projects.
Thank you so much for having me.
Our next topic is the upcoming primary election. We are moving closer to our California primary, and we want to keep you updated on key dates, voting opportunities, and presidential contest options. Our Registrar of Voters, Gina Martinez, is here with more information on all of that. Hi, Gina.
Hi, Maya. Thank you so much for having me here. And I have a presentation to kind of go over what to expect this upcoming election, the rules related to a presidential primary. So I'm going to start with sharing my screen. And here we go. So again, thank you. This is the most complex election that our voters will see, and that's because it incorporates different types of primaries. We have a presidential or party-nominated primary combined with a voter-nominated primary and a local nonpartisan primary, as well as local special vacancy and measure elections, all on one ballot. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and some key dates. As of January 24th, our total registration count for the county is just over 210,000 voters. You can see registration counts for the 6 qualified political parties in the first 6 columns of this table. The last 2 columns represent voters who declined to state a political party or who voted or who noted an unqualified political party on their voter registration form. combined, we have 46,000 registered voters who have not provided a qualified political party in Monterey County. Now, some key dates for the upcoming election. Our local voter information guide is making its way through the mail. I got mine yesterday and was very excited to see that. State voter information guides are making their way in the mail. February 5th, ballots will be mailed by the state, but we're likely to start seeing those ballots hit mailboxes over the weekend. February 5th through March 5th, we will have early and in-person voting options. Now, all of our voters, our active voters, those 210,000 registered voters, will receive a ballot in the mail, but they can also visit our office and vote in person if they would like, or at one of the satellite offices or a polling place. February 20th is the last day for regular registration. Now, if you miss that date, we can still help you up until March 5th, which is the last day to vote, the last day to return your ballot. It is the final deadline. Now, as I stated, this is the most complex election our voters will encounter, and this is due to the fact that we only work with a presidential primary every 4 years, and the presidential primary has special rules. In this election, parties are nominating the candidate that will represent the party in the general election. There are 6 qualified political parties. American Independent Party, that is an actual qualified political party. It is not independent of a party. The Democratic Party, the Green Party, Libertarian Party, Peace and Freedom Party, and the Republican Party. If you are registered with a party, your ballot will include that party's presidential contest, and regardless of how you're registered, on the back of that first card where your presidential contest is, you're going to see your voter nominated contest, starting with U.S. Senate, and then also your U.S. Congress, your state Senate, state assembly, and your local contest, all based on where you live. So the ballots will all have the same contest outside of that presidential contest. For those 46,000 voters who have decided not to register with a political party, they have 3 options this primary election. Now, option 1 is to take no action. Their ballot will not include a presidential contest, but it will include all other applicable contests based on where they live. And that again includes U.S. Senate, U.S. Congress, state Senate, state assembly, and any local nonpartisan or measures that they're eligible to vote on. Option 2, for nonpartisan voters, some parties allow them to retain that nonpartisan status and not re-register with a party. Instead, they can request to cross over onto that party's presidential contest. For this election, American Independent Party, the Democratic Party, and the Libertarian Party are offering this option to our no party preference voters. Option 3, if the voter who is currently a no party preference voter wishes to vote on a presidential contest for either the Green, the Peace and Freedom Party, or the Republican Party, they can re-register with that party and then vote that party's ballot. Now, regardless of what option they choose related to the presidential contest, they will still have the U.S. Senate contest, the identical Congress contest, the identical state assembly, state Senate. It's after president, it's all the same ballot. So it's really important for our voters to understand that they can only vote once in an election, and this primary election includes several primaries on one ballot across 2 cards. That is what will be in their packet. They can make their choice. We are here to help them get to the ballot that they want, but they can only return one ballot. We will accept the first ballot that comes back to us, and then they are done for this primary election. To help our voters decide, we have sent voter guides with sample ballots that look very much like this, so they know what to expect in their packet, or if they choose to re-register, they can see the candidates and contests and their options that they have available to them. At the top of the ballots, they'll see the party for the presidential contest. So, for example, on the left side is the American Independent Party. On the right, we have the Democratic Party. And the block in red is the presidential contest. For our Democratic Party, some areas of the county will have a central committee contest that is unique to those voters who are registered with the Democratic Party based on where they live. The Green Party, Libertarian Party ballots, same deal. We have the presidential contest listed below, and I am indeed going to show every single party just so that everybody can see their options. Peace and Freedom Party at the top, Republican Party, You see the contest for president, and then for the Republicans, much like the Democratic Party, there may be a central committee contest on the ballot for that party, depending on where the voter resides. For our nonpartisan voters, we have the nonpartisan ballot. So if they went with option one, or they haven't yet decided if they're going to cross over or re-register, the ballot that they're going to see in the mail beginning this weekend is going to be the nonpartisan ballot. There will be a message related to the presidential contest with instructions and their options. Because the Democratic Party has a central committee contest that's specific to those voters that are registered with the Democratic Party, and they allow crossover voting, crossover only applies to the presidential contest. So we have a special nonpartisan Democratic ballot for any voter who chooses to cross over onto the Democratic presidential contest. Now, again, I said this several times, but I will say it again on the back of that first card. So card A and card B, that is what our ballot will consist of this election. Card A, the front of card A is a presidential contest. The back of card A is your U.S. Senate seat. We have two contests related to a vacancy. We have the United States Senator full term, and then a second contest, United States Senator partial term. You will see that a candidate may be listed twice, once in each contest. You can vote regardless of your party. The party preference are listed for the candidates. You can vote for any candidate that you like in the U.S. Senate seat. You can only vote for one for each contest. But if you see a repeat candidate and you want to vote for that candidate in both contests, you can do that as well. Card B will include your congressional seat. We have districts 18 and 19 in Monterey County now. You have your state Senate seat. We are wholly contained in District 17. You have your state assembly. District 29 is shown here. We also have District 30, depending on where you live in Monterey County. If you're in supervisor districts 1, 4, or 5, you will have your county supervisor seat. You may have a special local vacancy contest, depending on if you're in a city or not, or a measure. All of us will have our state proposition. Beginning this weekend, voters can be on the lookout for this familiar envelope. It is the vote by mail packet with your vote by mail ballot and special instructions on how to return the ballot. The vote by mail return envelope is included in that packet. It is postage paid, and we remind our voters to please sign inside the box so that we can count your ballot. Every signature is verified by a human in the elections office. We are looking to your voter registration record to compare the signature from this envelope to the record to make sure that we can count your ballot. Those voter guides, again, are in the mail, but you can access them online now at the Secretary of State's website or at the Monterey County Elections website. And again, with those key dates, starting February 5th, we'll have early in-person voting at the Monterey County Elections office. Beginning February 27th, we'll have early voting at the Embassy Suites satellite office in Seaside. Additional pop-up events will be added. And as always, we want to remind our voters that you can sign up to receive a message regarding the status of your ballot, where your ballot is, whether or not Monterey County Elections has received your ballot or counted it. You can simply look up "Where's My Ballot, California," and it'll take you to the sign up page. Currently, we have 37,000 registered voters signed up for ballot tracks. And you can check your voter status, your name, your address, your party affiliation, and whether or not your ballot was counted. We encourage our voters, please call us if you have any questions, reach out to us. This is the phone number. We have people ready to answer those questions and assist you to get to the ballot that you want. Thank you so much, and I am available for questions.
Gina, thanks very much for walking through this. I'm going to end your there you go. End your screen sharing. Thanks for walking through this. You started off by saying this is one of the most complex, elections, but really, rather than, I know my blood pressure went up a little bit when I looked at all those options, but once you walk through it, it really is clear what to do. And I think maybe you could give some additional advice to voters who open it, and it may look complex, but just how would you recommend voters when they open up their packet, they look at everything, what should they do to really be ready to complete everything?
So first, I would start with a voter information guide. Your local voter information guide includes all the potential ballots that you could choose from. Now, you're registered to vote already with either a political party or no party preference. So if you're registered to vote with a political party, as the majority of our voters are, you're going to know what party ballot you're going to get. And so start with that presidential contest. Look to the front. The instructions are all included on the ballot itself. Now, we know that just as individuals, we receive information differently, we process information differently. And so we are working really to get the information to our voters in over a variety of channels. And so on the ballot, there will be instructions to the voters. There's a mix of text that we're required to have, and then some very human text, in particular with our no party preference voters. So the information is there. We've also included a cover page on top of the ballot. So when your ballot comes to you in that packet, it is covered with additional information. And that's the first page that they should start with. Look to the instructions there. If you're a first-time federal voter and we need information from you, we've said there, hey, we need this information. If you're a no party preference voter, we're telling you you're a no party preference voter, these are your options. Call us. Now, if there's still confusion after all of the messaging, then just call us. We absolutely have individuals on hand here at phones ready to talk to you, and they'll talk you through it, and they'll make sure that they're able to help you get to the ballot that you want.
Thanks very much for that. We do have a question. Do you still need poll workers for the election?
Well, we always need poll workers. I will tell you, we are in good shape with our poll workers, but we encourage people who are interested, who have never done this before, some folks who have done this before and maybe taken a break, give us a call and let's get out there and have a good election, because really our democracy only works if we do. And that poll worker role is a critical role. And so we want all hands on deck. We want to be ready to serve our voters. We're confident that we have our number of poll workers, but we will put more out there and have everybody ready, not just for March 5th, but for November 5th as well, when our general election comes around.
Oh, yeah. So it just doesn't end it.
It never ends.
So people who they don't have to worry that they missed the boat for March. If they wanted to be a poll worker, they could contact your office and you could get them in the chute for November, right?
We can still get them in the chute for March. We will place people, because the sooner we get you out there, the sooner we get you trained, the more familiar you are with the process and providing excellent customer service to our voters. It works well if we get you in as soon as possible. But again, if you're not available March 5th, give us a call anyway, and we could sign you up for a future election.
Any other questions for Gina about any of these key dates, any ballot questions? I'm seeing none. Thank you, Gina, for taking the time to walk us through this. I know you've actually put us a little bit at ease, because now we're not going to be so flustered when we open up that mailing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, Mia. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Gina. So our next topic is a very interesting workshop coming up the first part of February. On February 10th, there will be a Parent Power Summit. This is a bilingual event that brings people from all three of our counties in this area to talk about and advocate for improving childcare in our region. We're very pleased to have Nina Alcaraz from First Five, Monterey County, one of our favorite local nonprofits. She is here to share information about the event and how people can participate. Hi, Nina. Thanks very much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to talk about this summit. So yes, thanks for the introduction. My name is Nina Alcaraz. I'm with First Five Monterey County. First Five is the fiscal sponsor for the Central Coast Early Childhood Advocacy Network. And the network is the one that is hosting the Parent Power Summit. And this is actually our 5th Parent Power Summit in the area. So just to give you a little bit of a rundown of who we refer to ourselves as CCAN sometimes, the Central Coast Early Childhood Advocacy Network. It's composed of the 3 Central Coast counties, Santa Cruz, San Benito, and Monterey. And we have over 500 individuals and organizations, and growing, that are really set on advocating and representing the 94,000 0 to 8-year-olds here in Monterey County. And our mission is to strengthen and advocate for policies and systems that are supporting thriving families. And we see part of our work around that is really providing trainings, capacity buildings for parents, because we believe that Those who are closest to the challenges and problems are also the ones that are closest to the solutions. So we're trying to help bridge and empower parents to really understand how systems are impacting their lives and what they can do within the systems to change them. So the Parent Power Summit is being held on February 10th at Sherwood Hall in Salinas. Registration begins at 9:15, 9:30. The actual event starts at 10 and it goes until 2:30. You'll see that it's primarily going to be held in Spanish, but it is a bilingual event. So there will be Spanish, English, there will be interpretation. There's also going to be childcare available for children ages 3 to 12. If a child is under the age of 3, then we ask that they stay with their parent for the event or try and find childcare, maybe like somebody at home or a friend. But nobody's turned away if they have to bring their child. The tentative agenda for it is that there's going to be a visioning exercise with everybody to talk about how they see childcare. There are going to be a series of workshops. There's lunch, there's a game to engage people. There's also going to be an advocacy panel. We have Senator Laird coming to speak. We also have representatives from Speaker Rivas's office and Assemblymember Addis's office, along with Representative Lofgren's, a representative from Representative Lofgren's office also. The workshops that we're going to be having are going to be one about how to use your experience to tell your story, and how to translate that into a call to action. We have a special session about dads and engaging dads and men in advocating for childcare, as it tends to be women primarily that advocate in this space, but it's an everybody issue. Also, talking to the media, we're going to have trainers talk about how to engage with the media as advocacy. And so if anybody from the media would like to come, then it would be a really great opportunity to put practice into action. And then also how to turn your ask into action. And we have partners with UC Santa Cruz coming to talk about how to power map various organizations and individuals. It's co-host, yes, My First Five, also Bright Beginnings. We have Core Investments from Santa Cruz County, along with Cradle to Career Santa Cruz County. The City of Salinas is also a partner, Positive Discipline, and there's several others that are helping co-sponsor. If you'd like to learn more information, you can go to our website, and there are links to the events there along with the registration. And then you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And that's it, unless there's any questions.
Thank you very much, Nina, for sharing this information. I think a lot of people even are not aware that this workshop even exists, although you've been doing it for 5 years. It seems now, with people becoming more sensitized to the need for childcare, are you finding more people are really asking to get out there and advocate to change what our current situation in childcare really is?
Yes, I think that families especially, are worried about the accessibility and they're worried about the affordability. And so they're trying to figure out, like, okay, how can I talk about these issues and lean into with our legislators to try and find the solutions. We also know that our workforce, like our employers, are also interested in childcare because they're not finding the recruiting for employment, good employees is difficult when you have somebody who has to stay at home or is sick because they don't have childcare. So we're really seeing, especially after COVID or through COVID, that childcare keeps rising to the top of people's priorities of problems that we all need to work on together.
I also noticed that this workshop is going to be bilingual, but bilingual primarily in Spanish with English interpretation. Is this a way to reach a part of our community that may not even know that they have some additional option available, or they can advocate for changes in childcare?
I think that yes, and a lot of our political systems and systems in legislation tend to be dominated in the English language. And so that creates a gap in knowledge that is accessible for everybody. And so, a lot of the work of the Central Coast Early Childhood Advocacy Network has been really working to bridge those gaps and make sure that, as I said in the beginning, like advocacy is for everyone. We also take an approach of advocacy as healing for those who may have experienced trauma, that to be able to tell your story and to be able to say the things that you need is also part of what makes us stronger individuals. And so we take all those values in terms of making sure that it is accessible for people.
And we have some members of our Spanish language media on our news briefing. Are you able to provide information in Spanish right now, or can we refer them to someone in your organization for that?
Yes, I can. I have flyers both in English and Spanish that I think I can drop in the chat if I understand how Zoom works. Or people can, everything on our Facebook and Instagram pages are both bilingual, and you can find information there. And I'll also type in my email address that people can reach out to me if they have any other questions or have follow-ups.
Yeah, I think there was an interest in getting the bilingual audio of, explanation of the project. And I didn't know if that was something you could do, or we could make arrangements for that later.
You can make arrangements for that later.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Nina about the Parent Summit? And I also wanted to ask, in case we may have some people chiming in with questions, but you talked about registration. Is it wise for people to register early for this program, and why?
Yes, we do have a capacity of how many people we can take, both for childcare and for adults. So as soon as people can register, if the date and timing works for them, they should. I should also mention something I neglected to mention is this event is free. There will be like breakfast, there will be lunch, and all the childcare and everything is free.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for sharing this information with us. This is a great workshop. We're looking forward to the great things that will come out of it, and would like to have you back again on other topics as well. So thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you for having me on this. I look forward to hearing from people.
And thanks everyone for joining us on the news briefing this week. Our next briefing is next week. We'll see you then.